My 62-year-old Mill is planning my baby shower, but it's a nightmare. I felt suffocated by her controlling demands, from the guest list to the cake. "You don't get a say," she yelled, and I snapped, "It's my house." After this chaos, I wonder how will she react when the baby arrives? Summary: I am 7 months pregnant with my first child, and my mother-in-law has offered to host a baby shower for me. I find her behavior to be strange, controlling, and uncomfortable, but I am not American, so I am unsure if this is typical and whether I should be more accommodating. I would appreciate your opinions. Is she unreasonable? Although I have a strong relationship with my husband's family, I have always kept a certain distance because my husband often has conflicts with his mother. Now I understand why. I dislike drama and tend to be the type to pick my battles. In my culture, it is important to remain respectful and obey elders. I do not come from a controlling family, so obeying my parents was easy while growing up. It goes without saying that my mother-in-law tries to babysit her 2 sons and publicly mistreats her husband, which is always irritating to me, but I feel it is not my business, so I remain uninvolved. My husband dislikes her babysitting and controlling ways and makes an effort to keep her out of our lives. I notice it more now than before. Additionally, I am not fond of being the center of attention. For example, we did not have a traditional wedding. It was just my husband, immediate family, and friends on Zoom during the lockdowns. My husband shares my preference for a simpler, low-key lifestyle. When my mother-in-law proposed organizing my baby shower, I informed her that I was not planning on having one because, in my culture, people do not buy items for someone else's child. It is entirely the responsibility of the parents. However, if this is a customary practice in American culture, I would be willing to participate. I told her that I would notify her if I needed her assistance. She persisted in asking whether I had reconsidered, so I informed her that I would prefer to host one at home and invite only close friends and family. She insisted on paying for everything, so I explained that I did not want her to cover the costs and that this was something I would arrange myself. I conveyed this in a polite manner. Yet, my mother-in-law continued to argue, claiming that the house would be chaotic and that I would have to clean, and so forth. I did not respond at that time because I traveled home for 2 weeks with my husband. Upon my return, she began calling me incessantly every day to arrange viewings for venues. Not wanting to be rude, I decided to go along with it. As it turned out, she had been visiting venues that she preferred over the past few weeks and narrowed it down to 2 or 3 options that she wanted me to choose from. To be honest, I disliked all of them. They were too dark and located in obscure places. She mentioned her budget was $900 or less, and I began to feel pressured. I wondered why I was being compelled to adhere to her budget. I have my own finances, so what is her issue? Everything seemed to be predefined by her. I wanted to avoid drama because, ultimately, I did not care for a baby shower. I chose the venue that I liked best from her selections. Furthermore, I thought it was her first grandchild, so I wanted to avoid being a nuisance about it. Since we did not have a wedding, I figured we could at least have this celebration, which would honor my husband's parents and integrate into their culture. However, her obsession only grew stronger. She began calling me multiple times a day regarding the baby registry. I found it overwhelming as she wanted to come over every Saturday at 10 a.m. to work on the registry together. She also wanted access to my registry to update it, which I declined. Her insistence was difficult to manage, especially considering I was still dealing with morning sickness and unable to get a full night's sleep. Keep in mind that some Saturdays, 5 to 6 family members would come over, not just my mother-in-law. I had to host the guests and prepare lunch, among other things. My mother-in-law insisted on working on the registry until the guests arrived, which left me frantically preparing food and meant I ended up not eating myself. At a certain point, I had enough. I told my husband not to agree to their coming at 10 a.m. anymore. My reasoning was simple: I want to sleep. It is Saturday, and we worked all week. I genuinely did not feel like waking up so early to cook breakfast for my family and my mother-in-law and father-in-law, and then prepare lunch for the other guests. It was infuriating. She became upset that I did not want them to come at 10 a.m. but preferred the afternoon along with the rest of the guests. Her attitude was disheartening. It is my home. When they eventually came over, she nagged about the registry again, even though it was completed. I calmly stated that I would not be working on the registry any further because it was finished, and I needed to host more guests and have time to eat. I expressed this in a polite manner once more. Regardless, she continued to email me 3 to 4 times daily about what she wanted me to add, and she would call me frequently. I ignored her requests, and then she would come on Saturdays and say, "I sent you an email on January 13th at 2 p.m. Be sure to include those items on your list." I responded, "I saw it, and I will add them if I find them suitable." Her reaction was noticeably irritated. This is when I started to become frustrated. One Saturday, She criticized my last name, questioning why I had not changed it to my husband's, and stating that her family and friends would not recognize me when viewing the registry. I replied that I do not intend to change my name and that they could access it through the e-invitation link. She made a peculiar face of annoyance. When I reviewed the invitation list, I discovered there were 50 people. My husband and I were startled. We do not even know 50 people. Out of those 50 individuals, 15 were our friends. The remaining guests were all hers. She invited everyone, including distant relatives and their children, whom my husband does not even know. I pointed out that I thought we had a budget, so I had not invited some friends, 2 in total. She replied, as people RSVP no, I can invite more guests. Therefore, when several people RSVP no, I told her I would invite 2 friends, considering I do not have a family, and she claimed that she would instead invite her distant cousins, instructing me to wait a little longer. Keep in mind that no one in our circle knows these cousins, and my mother-in-law has consistently disparaged them for having children out of wedlock and for their financial struggles. My mother-in-law's behavior deteriorated further after I expressed that I did not think a cake from Kroger was acceptable for an event of this significance. Do not misunderstand, I enjoy Kroger cakes, but for a baby shower? I suggested bringing my own cake, to which she responded with a firm no, insisting that I would have a Kroger cake. She also attempted to lend me one of her used dresses to wear for the shower. I found this peculiar. My husband firmly insisted that we should go to the mall and buy me a nice new dress. He is a wonderful partner. I had no say in anything related to the invitation design. My husband agreed with me as he witnessed the situation escalating, advising me to assert my desires and let him know when to intervene. I found this relieving. Thus, I created a group chat with my mother-in-law and sister-in-law, who is incredibly nice, and informed them that I had changed the invitation design to one I preferred, that I would handle the cake myself, and that I would be in charge of decoration and theme. My mother-in-law became upset, continuously criticizing my choices and presumably making subtle negative remarks behind my back. She maintained that she did not like the new invitation, claiming she had worked for hours with my sister-in-law to select it. I then communicated that we needed to adjust the invitation time due to insufficient time to set up the venue. She reacted angrily, and I explained that I only needed an additional 30 minutes, as my friends were traveling from another country and needed time to arrive. My mother-in-law had chosen a venue convenient for her and her friends but 50 minutes away from everyone I know. My friends needed to cross the border and drive a significant distance. As the invitations had not yet been sent out, I asked what the problem was. I stood firm, stating it would be manageable, it was just a 30-minute buffer. Her husband, my father-in-law, supported my request, agreeing that my reasoning was logical. My husband was not present during this discussion. The next day, my husband called her and said, "If you wish to plan a baby shower for my wife, then my input must be acknowledged, otherwise, we will cancel everything." She, of course, began shouting and became furious, but he defended my stance. Then came the week of the shower, this week, and her ongoing issues continued. Some of my friends are vegan for Lent, which I believe is perfectly normal in America, and she remarked, "Oh, that's a problem. We need to check with the restaurant." I was bewildered. I had already mentioned this previously and included a salad on the menu with the option to remove non-vegan items. My husband was present and expressed confusion over her concern, asserting that it was not difficult to cater for vegans, just eliminate the meat. She fell silent after that. One of my friends later changed her RSVP to no because of an emergency surgery, which upset my mother-in-law because she had already given the head count to the restaurant, the same day. She then criticized the centerpieces I had purchased, declaring that they were too large, even though she was the only one who thought so. Subsequently, she shared that the venue intended to charge her additional fees for extra tablecloths now that more of her relatives were attending, but she was unwilling to pay for them. Instead, she opted to buy one bright pink tablecloth from the dollar store. Consequently, all tables would feature white fabric tablecloths, while 3 tables would be dressed in hot pink. I proposed covering the venue expenses to maintain uniformity, but she refused, insisting that she had already bought the hot pink ones, so it was too late. I had reiterated that I would handle the venue decor, but she circumvented my wishes and coordinated with them on her own. She also made requests about seating arrangements, audaciously suggesting that her friends and family be seated at the main table while my friends would be relegated to the side tables. I was infuriated. I stated that I did not think that was acceptable and that I needed to consider my decision. It is astonishing. My friends are traveling from a different country. Then came a puzzling detail. She would not disclose what the takeaway gifts for guests would be and entirely rejected any additional gifts to accompany them. She claimed, "I am not supposed to know," insisting on having a surprise for me. I found this unacceptable. How is it reasonable for me not to know what my friends will be taking home? She refused to communicate this information and did not allow me or my sister-in-law to add any extra gift to balance things out. When my sister-in-law discovered that I was in the dark about the gifts, she discreetly told me what it was behind my mother-in-law's back, believing it rude that I had not been informed. Upon learning the details of the gift, while I personally considered it cute, I doubted that those from my church would appreciate receiving it alone. Something additional should accompany it. I plan to begrudgingly endure this situation because of the time constraints and purchase some flowers as takeaways. Furthermore, she wanted me to compile a list of everyone who attended but sent gifts to the house and thank them individually, including a list of the items they bought, which I firmly declined. What happens if someone gives 5 gifts while another person can only afford a small one? Wouldn't that create discomfort? I prefer to express gratitude individually and sincerely. I will also send personalized cards and have been expressing thanks as gifts have already arrived. Following this conversation, my brother-in-law messaged in our group and mentioned that my mother-in-law was quite upset and drinking excessively. I am uncertain. I once genuinely loved my mother-in-law, but this experience has changed many dynamics. I cannot envision how she will behave after my baby is born, and I have already warned my husband that I will not tolerate her involvement with our children. He expressed his relief that I now understand why he has conflict with her, why he distanced himself at 16, and the necessity for us to present a united front to keep her away. I am troubled by my feelings of anger and even disgust, to be honest. I cannot stop reflecting on everything and how startled I am. This has been more of a venting session, but I genuinely cannot tell if I am overreacting. At the same time, it somewhat clarifies why no one from her husband's family truly engages with her or involves her in matters. Everyone seems to have an issue with her, and I am finally recognizing it. Did I make a mistake by asserting my preferences? Is it genuinely customary in America to keep the expecting parent out of the loop? I feel naive and regret not caring more about this situation. Thank you, and I apologize for venting. Story 2. My girlfriend Ari, 23, says I probably love her less, yet I'm the one tiptoeing around her anger over a dirty dish and a cucumber soup. After 5 months, I'm drowning in her perfectionism. I'm disappointed in you, she says, leaving me wondering, is this love or control? Summary, I believe my girlfriend is a perfectionist, possibly even narcissistic, and I constantly feel like I am walking on eggshells. My girlfriend, Ari, and I have been dating since early October, which makes it 5 months. We clicked immediately and decided to move in together at the end of January. Although it was a fast decision, I felt genuinely positive about it and was excited about what lay ahead. This relationship felt distinct from my previous ones, and I envisioned a long-term future together. The first few weeks of cohabitation were quite typical in that regard. We had numerous boxes to unpack and organize, leaving little time for enjoyable activities together. At the end of the second week, my mother visited, and unfortunately, Ari did not get along with her at all. This situation created tension between Ari and me, leading her to express dissatisfaction with my cleaning habits and to request that I have higher standards. Some examples of things I did incorrectly included leaving a dirty dish in the sink while saying goodbye to my mother before heading to school, leaving a water glass on the floor on my side of the bed, leaving a shirt on the floor, and forgetting to clean the lint trap after a laundry load. I genuinely considered these to be minor issues, but I still agreed to improve and be more mindful of these matters because I want her to be happy in our shared space. 1 week later, she mentioned feeling good about the changes I had been making, and we had a Valentine's Day date at home that Friday before she left to dog sit. The 4th week of living together went well, and that weekend, we took a trip out of state to visit her family, which overall was pleasant. We took a red-eye flight back into town late at night, arriving at 3 a.m., and missed our stop on the bus to the shuttle lot. After all the minor things I had done that annoyed her around the house, I felt the need to maintain my image, so after speaking with the bus driver, I lied to her, saying we had not yet reached our stop and needed to circle back. When she found out the truth, she became extremely upset and gave me the cold shoulder for most of the following day. The next evening, I cooked dinner using cucumbers in a soup, which she criticized multiple times as a poor choice. After I inquired about her feelings, I apologized for lying on the bus and even wrote a formal apology, which I presented to her the next day. However, she was largely avoidant of further discussion until last Friday when we finally sat down together. To her credit, she did eventually apologize for her harsh remarks regarding the cucumbers in the soup. However, she then explained that since my mother's visit, she had been harboring resentment toward me because of my failure to perform essential adult tasks. Some specific issues that angered her included placing a pizza directly on the oven rack without a baking tray, not emptying the recycling after I filled it despite needing to leave quickly to meet a friend, staining a dish towel, and forgetting her daily schedule. She also expressed disappointment in my lack of initiative in planning dates, which I acknowledged, but I reminded her that we had been busy almost every weekend since moving in 5 out of 6 weekends and that we are both graduate students. Nevertheless, I agreed to try to meet her expectations and simply requested more patience, to which she appeared to agree. I also stated that I would take more initiative regarding date planning, which led me to create plans for the upcoming weekend. Additionally, I made a weekly calendar for us to note important events occurring throughout the week. What troubles me about this discussion is that she mentioned she probably loves me less than I love her at this moment due to the resentment she has been accumulating. I discussed this with my therapist, who suggested it sounded like a form of punishment. Yesterday, I returned home before her after shopping for nails and mounts to hang the shelves she wanted me to install. We had both agreed to spend time together last night to put them up. However, when she came home, she discovered that I had eaten some leftover rice, which she had previously said I could have as a snack, but which she actually intended to use for the meal she had planned. Unbeknownst to me, this made her very annoyed, and she remained passive-aggressive throughout the evening. I spent some time hanging the shelves while she prepared for bed, and I eventually told her it was unfair for her to treat me that way for something beyond my control. She responded incredulously, and we both went to bed upset. The next morning, I brought her coffee in bed, which I usually do. When she came out, she looked at the shelves I had worked hard to install and did not say a word to me. I had to ask her if they looked satisfactory, and she merely mumbled something about them looking nice before walking out the door. I am truly at a loss. I feel as though I am constantly walking on eggshells, and I am concerned that this might be the beginning of emotionally abusive behavior. I am uncertain about how to proceed.